Hi! Emotional resilience begins with truth. Boy, that's a tough one. This is really a tough one to put into something that makes so much sense, and yet it's so hard to accept. Accept the fact that it's not about being tough, strong, not about strong. It's about resilience. The difference between being able to punch somebody out and being able to have the incredible strength to turn around and walk away while everybody else is watching. That's resilience, because the truth is, you know he's stronger than you are, and he would hit you pretty hard. And the fact is, all you want to do is embarrass him. Oh gosh, resilience is tough. You can be in grief and also be resilient. You can know that sadness is coming and prepare yourself somewhat to face it. Emotional resilience is how you can really, really overcome an enemy, someone who is sabotaging you or got the rumor mill going against you, or whatever it is that they're absolutely determined to do to cause you grief. You can be so much stronger than they are and so much more effective if you can just learn how to be resilient to whatever. I think I learned that early when I was moving so much and sick so often as a child, and teased for being Polish and tall and in special classes. People feel threatened, especially when they know that you're in the class because you're smart, because they don't know if you're smarter than they are or not as smart as, or that's the bully types, not the types that are saying, oh, well, fortunately I get to do essays instead of multiple choice tests. Why is that important? Oh, it's really important. I was so happy when I figured that out. Golly. Because, when they design multiple choice tests, they make things so close together that you're thinking, well, how is my teacher thinking? Or how is the person who wrote this test thinking? Not which is the correct answer. But when it's an essay test, oh, you get to shine. Except for me, I was dyslexic, and my dyslexia showed up in spelling. I was the worst speller ever. It took years for the teachers to finally figure out what was really going on with me. And it took years for me to figure out that dyslexia is one of many, many, many aspects of what dyslexia spelling is one of the aspects. It's so weird, because you keep thinking, I just don't know how to read. No, I just don't know how to spell. And I've kind of looked back. I was in 7 schools in 2nd grade, and I was in almost as many, 6, I believe, for 3rd grade. And you really do phonics, and phonics is when you're supposed to pronounce out a word. Yeah, well, English, 2, and 2, that doesn't make sense. And there, that doesn't make sense either. And especially when you got a whole variety of languages, I think that's the emotional resilience that I really gathered as a youngster. Was I'd go to Jersey and they talk through their nose. Or I'd go down south and they'd say, "How y'all doing?" And it was so different. And then you'd go to some places and they talk so fast. And you go to other places and they just drawl on. And yet your teacher was always so different. And you can't say something. I mean, even at 7 and 8 years old, you know better than to say, "I just don't understand you. You talk funny." You have to say something like, "I just don't understand," or "I don't get it," or "I'm missing something," or some way to try to protect the fact that you're feeling really embarrassed and really confused and really pushed up against the wall. I was also a sick kid, and those kinds of things just kind of confuse you all. But But what you got to work at in being resilient is not to be excuse giving, not to be just always giving excuses. Because that doesn't do any good. No. That just makes you look weak again. And resilience isn't about strength. It's about power, self-power, not power over others. Power within yourself, knowing exactly who you are. And boy, that's hard when you're a kid. It's hard enough when you're an adult, come to think of it. You know, when you're an adult, you're still struggling with so many unanswered questions. And our emotions probably are a weakness and our strength. The only animal I know of for sure, well, there are lovebirds. I mean, people say that there's lovebirds are really in love with each other, but boy, you can sure see it in an elephant. I mean, they have a memory, and 40, 50, 60 years after meeting someone, they go rushing up to them again when they see them again. It's so phenomenal. And yet, is that emotional resilience? Or is that instinct? And those are questions that are certainly beyond what I've got to discuss with you today. I'm talking about how you can defend yourself and feel defended. Okay, that's really important. That's a really important aspect of being emotionally resilient, is to feel like you are able to defend yourself in your own mind. Okay, because obviously in the first example I gave, where you just walk away when somebody's getting ready to punch you in the face, and the rest of the people, the idea is that the rest of the people who are watching recognize that you had the the emotional strength to turn around and walk away, because you knew you were going to get clobbered for sure by this person who's so much bigger, but yet you walked away. And then you made that person look stupid. And of course, then you're dealing with the after effects of, is that person going to come back after you just because you made them look stupid? Or are they so emotionally unaware that they don't recognize they look stupid until maybe somebody in the crowd tells them they look stupid? When you're a great big guy and you're going to hit a little person, yeah, that makes you look stupid. It certainly doesn't make you look strong and tough. But developing emotional resilience is also important when you're feeling overwhelmed by all of the things that are going on in the world, or you're feeling incapable of handling some of the personal things that are really interfering with your life, or you're feeling helpless because you're not sure what to say to someone who may be very ill, or a child who's helpless. You just don't know what to do. Or you've met somebody who's early in recovery from drugs and alcohol, or cigarettes, or grief, whatever it is that they're dealing with, and they just feel weak. And yet you know that they would feel better if they felt stronger. Yes, that's true. And one of the areas that I sure feel it is feeling like a worn out caregiver. It's so hard to explain to somebody else. But you know, I saw a movie last night. It was a kind of a mystery movie, and it was about solving a crime. And what they finally discovered in solving the crime was that the mother had actually killed the child. Okay, now that sounds horrific. Only until you hear all the parts of the story. The child was 22 and had the mental capacity of a 6-year-old. And looked about 107. It's a disease that fortunately for myself, I had an experience with a child in Mexico who was like that. I believe he was 18 or 19 years old, and oh gosh, I don't think he weighed 50 pounds. And he looked really, really, really old, like 100. He really did. And it's a disease. It's a disease that interferes with the cognitive ability of the child. And of course, all of the physical abilities. Usually the child can't even walk. Some can, but very few can walk, at least not for very long. And everything has to be done for it. And they've been in your life for, this one was 18 years. The movie was 22 years. And yet they still haven't grown up. Still, the boy I was with, I believe he was around 4 or 5 years old. And this girl was supposed to have been 6 years old, cognitively. So there were lots and lots and lots of issues. And of course, with a daughter, then one of the things the mother talked about, with the daughter, the big fear was that someone would sexually molest her. I mean, they probably would break her bones, because that's another thing. The bones were very, very fragile. In the process, they probably would have broken her bones, which of course terrified the mother. And the mother had HIV, and she had been put on an experimental drug. She'd been trying for the longest time to find someone who would foster the child, and she couldn't find anybody that would do it. And so she was put on an experimental drug that made her so sick, and she was sure it wasn't working. So she actually gave a tablet to the daughter, and when she was unconscious, put her in a river, because drowning after a few seconds is falling asleep, I'm told. I don't know. But that's what she believed. And then after the girl died, she got better, the mother. And it's hard to say in retrospect whether her emotional resilience improved simply because she no longer had the child to care for, or whether it was because the drug was working, or was it that she was able to deal with it better and stronger because she didn't have the emotional responsibility of the daughter. And they kept talking about the physical challenges the mother was facing, but gosh, the emotional challenges of taking care of a youngster for 22 years, and they're still a child, had to be horrific, had to be absolutely horrific. And that was part of the struggle, of course, that people were going through who had to decide what to do with the mother, because obviously you don't let someone go who's killed someone else. But on the other hand, is that a mercy killing, or was it not? I mean, there's so many aspects to that, as there are to emotional resilience. It's really, really difficult to really put your finger on that and look at someone and say, wow, they're really emotionally resilient. For example, I had a friend several years ago, at least a decade and a half ago, whose husband died. And he had been sick for a very long time. And she had said she had really prepared herself. And boy, I mean, it was incredible when he died. And she said, yes, he's dead. And she took care of everything around her, and made decisions to get rid of the dogs and to good homes. And she just, everything she did was like she just handled it. It was a piece of cake, just over and over, everything. She had the memorial service, everything. It's just like she'd had it written out on a script, and she was really in a play and wasn't really in this position in her real life. It was so bizarre. And then she fell apart. A few months later, she just completely collapsed because she hadn't processed her own grief. She hadn't allowed herself to feel the grief in a way that showed to others. She was working so hard at convincing others that she had prepared herself for that position that she neglected to do what she needed to do for herself. And then when she finally relaxed, she had moved back from Mexico to the United States to stay with her son. She just collapsed. She became very ill and she passed. And that kind of thing is part of what we have to think about when we think about emotional resilience, because we don't want to do anything to fool ourselves. Don't want to fool ourselves. We want to act in a manner that makes sense. And don't deny that you have emotions, but become resilient enough that they don't take over your life. And that's what happened. They took over her life later because she didn't process it at the time, which would have been a lot easier because there were a lot of people there, because nothing makes you stronger in resilience than getting away from isolation. And when she went to her son, he really didn't want her and she didn't know where else to go. And so there was all that complication of him really not wanting her there and her not having the support she needed when she had all the support that she had in Mexico with all the friends she had there. Had she stayed, she probably would have been a lot better off. That's complicated, but I hope you got it. It's a tough subject, but we have to look at so many aspects, because right now so many people are feeling a lack of resilience because they're concerned about all the different things that are going on in the world, not just climate change, but political questions and leadership changes and a lack of compassion in a lot of situations, an excess amount of people who are suffering from poverty or hunger or whatever it might be, and maybe the personal aspects that a person is dealing with in their life that's overtaking them, and they feel like they can't ask other people to help them. Or, like I said, recovery, someone who's trying to recover from drugs and alcohol and doesn't have the kind of support that they need, or so many other aspects of sadness and grief and concern and worry, where you feel like you should be able to handle this. I should be strong. And you're not. You can't be. Sometimes you just can't be. But boy, if you're in a community, if you have emotional support from other people, you can. It never fails. It really never fails. If you get honest, truthful, absolutely, it has to be truthful. Can't be people faking it. They can't fake it. It can't be folklore. It has to be true. And if people are truly helping you, they're being honest with you, you'll get it. You'll get it. You'll get the resilience you need, because not being isolated is the most important part. I thank you for listening today. If you've got any questions, ask me down in the description. And while you're down there, check out our nonprofit that's been caring for the earth for 34 years through all kinds of different efforts. Thank you for being here.